Vatic Ventures Corp. is a potash exploration company focused on the Korat Basin in Thailand, the world's largest undeveloped potash resource. Vatic's management has extensive potash exploration and development experience in Thailand. Vatic will have marketing advantage compared to Western producers. Drill program commences this spring. Vatic trades on the TSX Venture, symbol VCV, and on Frankfurt, symbol V8V2. Visit our website, vaticventures.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Mish Shedlock, editor of Mish's Global Economic Trend Analysis on maven.net/Mish Talk. Welcome back to the show, Mish.
Pleasure to be back on. Back from a nice trip in Mono Lake, California. That's near Yosemite. We saw some ancient bristlecone pines that are 4,000 years old to 5,000 years old. Wow, imagine that. The longest lived thing here anywhere. And had a great time. It's good to be back.
Mish, with NAFTA talks still going on between Canada and the U.S., how do you think that's going to turn out?
I don't know, Jim. I don't know. I was just reading on this today that Canada wants to proceed. The Trump has threatened to go it alone with just Mexico. The problem for Trump is it seems unlikely that the Senate would go along with that. That strengthens Canada's hand a lot, actually. They can just wait, and if all Trump comes back with is just an agreement with Mexico, it's unlikely to fly. So I think Trudeau is being cautious here. He says he wants some concessions from Trump. I don't know if Trump is going to be willing to those concessions or not, but what we've seen from Trump time and time again is a willingness to back off and get something done, although he reversed that here with China. The U.S. asked China for more talks. China said okay. Trump went ahead with $200 billion in tariffs anyway. So we really don't know what Trump is going to do here. I suspect, though, they will get some sort of deal. I don't know. Canada won't agree to anything and everything that Trump wants. So there's a good chance of no deal here.
Trump seems to be obsessed with Canada's trade marketing system to protect small farmers, but yes. Just one state like Wisconsin produces more dairy products than all of Canada.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like well, let me put it this way. Canada is wrong on this point. Trump is right on this point. But it's not like it's that big of a deal here to the U.S. They're, all in all, Canada's tariffs in aggregate are no worse than the U.S. So it's really nitpicking here, which is what Trump likes to do, point to various aspects and expect everything to go well. I actually did a report a few weeks back. I don't have the stats in front of me now, but the U.S. actually runs, counting services, a small surplus with Canada. So in aggregate, Trump is pissing and moaning about nothing. So, but yes, he has a point. Canada ought not have these dairy tariffs, but this is really a tax on Canadian consumers. Canada is the one that's losing more on this than the U.S. And if you balance everything out here, just in aggregate, the U.S. has no total overall beef with Canada. That's really what it boils down to.
With the escalating trade war with China, the Chinese premier has said that they will not devalue their currency to counter U.S. tariffs. But do you really have a choice in what the rest of the world believes your currency is worth?
Well, you can manipulate currencies and get away with it for a while, as we've seen with what the Swiss National Bank has done with the euro. Eventually, things tend to explode one way or another, explode or implode, which we saw happen in Europe exactly that way. So, but China has essentially had a peg of sorts here for decades. So, can this last, another few years? Yes, it can. So it's already gone a substantial way, but I don't think that's the serious threat here at that point. The other threat that people have talked about is China dumping treasuries. I don't put very much stock in that either, and there's things the U.S. actually could do to counter that quite easily. There are things that China could do that are not easily counterable. And this came up in a discussion. I was actually on Coast to Coast last night talking about this with George Norrie. China came out a few days ago and said, well, if Trump escalates the tariffs, we have supplies of things where the U.S. has no other supplier. Now, I didn't mention the things, but I know what they are. China is pretty much the sole producer of most rare earth elements. Rare earth elements aren't all that rare. However, there are problems manufacturing, refining them, whatever. It produces a lot of toxic sludge that other nations simply don't want to deal with, and China is willing to do that. So and rare earth elements are used in touch screens. They're used in powerful magnets that are used in weapon systems. They're used in specialized glass and things that I believe goes into aircraft. So think Boeing here. I'm trying to get a handle from a contact at Boeing, just which ones of these rare earths, if any, are actually being used. So the other aspect of this trade is the U.S. or these tariffs is the U.S. is actually pushing Russia and China closer together. Now, Russia happens to supply most of the world's titanium. So, what could Russia do if Trump increased tariffs on them? Well, I guess they could shut down the supply of titanium. Now, that's how Russia gets some of its hard currency, so there are costs to this. But push comes to shove, if you push someone hard enough, they're willing to endure probably a lot more pain than the U.S. does. And back to rare earths here for a second. Like I said, they're not all that rare, but it would take several years to put together a mining operation somewhere else, say, Japan or elsewhere, the United States. So, in the meantime, what are we going to do for 3 years when China's the only supplier? So, these are the things that China and or Russia, could do to seriously put a damper on things. There's a lot of supply chain disruptions that could happen if China and or Russia would choose to go that route.
We'll have more with Mike Shedlock right after the break.
Aben Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the pink symbol ABN AF. surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines. Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
I'm Kelly Jennings, CEO of PowerBand Solutions. PowerBand is a cloud-based provider of auction, inventory, and finance solutions that make buying, selling, and financing vehicles more efficient. PowerBand Solutions trades on the TSX Venture Exchange symbol PBX and on the OTCQB symbol PWWBF and on Frankfurt symbol 1ZV. For more information, please visit us at powerbandsolutions.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mish Shedlock. Mish, how are American consumers doing right now?
Well, at what end of the scale? The median person is barely better than they were a decade ago. At the bottom end, they are worse, and males are under where they were at least 2 decades ago. When we're talking about median wages, if we look at household income, it'll tell you one story, and that is, that households are increasingly better off. 100% of that, actually over 100% of that, is due to more women working and women's wages catching up to men. Men's wages are actually lower in real terms, not nominal terms, and by real I mean inflation-adjusted terms, than they were 2 decades ago. So, looked at it that way, it's no wonder we have a bunch of angry white men who senses accurately that they're not getting ahead. Now, if you look at averages, things are so skewed by the top wage earners that averages actually look good. The proper way to look at this is median wages, median household incomes, and things are not very pretty for a lot of people. And this assumes that one believes the inflation stats coming out of the BLS. I don't believe them. Here I am a deflationist, but I think inflation is understated. And simply because home prices are not in there, I don't believe medical costs are accurately reflected in there. They take these things and average them out. Like, I'm going on 65. I'll be on Medicare. Pretty soon, none of these rises in health care are going to impact me very much at all, simply because I'm old enough to get Medicare. So you take all the people on Medicare and you take the people who have health care plans with their company, and perhaps these people have really low inflation. But anyone who has their own private health insurance or is self-employed is absolutely getting crucified. This is one of the problems with taking all of these things, averaging them out, and saying, okay, look at this. This is the average. The averages are misleading. The housing is understated because home prices aren't in there. Someone going to college, looking at the cost of college education, since the average person is not going to college, well, that aspect of it looks as if inflation is benign because they're not affected by it. So there are millions and millions of people affected by one of these things that's just not reflected when you take all of these things and average it together and come up with some ridiculous number as if, it's meaningful.
Is the U.S. job situation as promising or as good as the stats officially say it is?
I don't know. I would guess not, actually. And one of the reasons we can conclude that is if we had all of these pressures, like everyone says, they're worried about the economy overheating because of jobs or whatever, year-over-year wage growth, 2 to 3% here. I think the last one it jumped. It's close to 3, but you factor in real wages, inflation, and real mean wages are actually, barely rising. So, for all the robust nature of this alleged super hot jobs market is not reflecting that much in wages. So that's certainly a misleading aspect of things if you put it in proper perspective.
We'll have more with Mike Shedlock right after this.
I'm Brian Fowler, president of Blind Creek Resources Limited, listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, ticker symbol BCK. Blind Creek is focused in the Yukon, Northwest Territories, and British Columbia. The company's key property is the Blend Project, one of the largest undeveloped lead-zinc-silver deposits in Western Canada, plus plans to advance the recently acquired, fully permitted historic engineer gold mine in the Atlan District of Northwestern BC. Check us out at blindcreekresources.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mike Shedlock. Mish, are house prices in the U.S. stabilizing, going up, or coming down, or does it all depend on location?
A lot of it is location. But in general, home prices are still rising, and that's why we've seen increasing numbers of people who simply cannot afford to buy a home, so they don't. Existing home sales have been on a downtrend, I think, for 4 or 5 months here now. People are literally priced out of the market because of rising home prices, and now we have the Fed hiking, so interest rates are going up, and I need to go look at mortgage rates, and I think I'll do that later this afternoon. But generally they follow the 10-year rate, and it's actually blasted higher in the last month. So mortgage rates are highly likely to be following that. So we'll take a look, and every rise in the mortgage rate decreases the affordability of homes, and affordability is already extremely stretched. So this is another reason to believe that the Fed is slowly hiking the U.S. into recession. I believe a recession's unavoidable anyway, but this is what's happening. In a sense, the Fed is way behind the curve because real rates are still low. We have inflation and measured inflation. I believe it's higher, as I said, and the Fed interest rates roughly aligned. Normally, interest rates would be a couple of points higher than that. So real rates are still loose. This is one of the things that's, I believe, adding to the bubble in the stock market is that money is still too cheap.
President Trump would like to see Apple move its iPhone production from China to the U.S., but would that make iPhones unaffordable?
It depends. What would Apple do? Would Apple increase its price? If it did by as much as the tariffs were impacted, or the costs would go up to assemble these in the United States, the price of an iPhone might even do as much as double, as I saw in one report, but more likely something like 20%. But Apple could also, instead of raising prices, just choose to make less profit. That would be one possibility, or you could have a combination of those two things. Apple raises prices, say, by 5 or 10%, and takes a 5 or 10% hit to its profit line. I think some sort of combination like that is likely, but all of these supply chain movements have other repercussions. So it's they have to build a factory, acquire the space, all of this. So it goes a little bit deeper. So I don't know. Apple, because its profit margins are so high, is arguably, less impacted than other companies. We have seen reports of nail manufacturers, for example, of soybean exporters, of kidney bean exporters in Wisconsin. You have a number of small and medium-sized businesses that are already barely making a profit or making a small profit, are seriously impacted here by tariffs, by China retaliating, by needing low-cost steel to produce their product. These are the businesses whose margins are already tiny, are the ones that cannot react to the things that Trump is doing and China is doing in response. That's where the problem is. And bear in mind, Jim, we're just talking right now. It's only been tariffs on about $50 billion worth of goods. Trump upped that to now approximately $250 billion worth of goods, and we're talking about 10% tariffs on that. Trump has threatened to up it to 25% on another $267 billion actually of products, which would put a 25% tariff on all goods coming from China. Okay, China could respond by dropping the value of the yuan by 25%. I don't think so. 5%, maybe. So we're talking here then about let's say a 15 to 20% jump in the price of all imports from China. That is huge. To act as if that's not going to matter, people have to not be thinking clearly. So Trump is not thinking clearly. The importers are all screaming here now about this. Trump's not listening to him, to them. He thinks that this trade war is winnable. I say it's not. They do not understand the resolve. This administration does not understand the resolve of China to not be pressured into a deal.
Well, China being a communist nation, the citizens could just be ordered not to buy anything American.
That's pretty much true, and they wouldn't. Compare this to the U.S., which is a point that I made in my blog. We have something here called elections, Jim. China doesn't exactly have those, right? So its tolerance for pain is a lot higher than the tolerance for pain for politicians here in the United States. My baseline scenario already is that the Republicans are going to lose the House in the midterm elections in November. it's conceivable to me, if this tariff mess gets out of hand, and we've already got another deal here with the Me Too crowd in Kavanaugh. We'll have to reserve that discussion for another time. But so we have two ways here now in which things can backfire on the Republicans, even in the Senate. It's not inconceivable to me that that a combination of factors, one of them being tariffs, is going to cost the Republicans not just the House but the Senate in the midterms. And I said that several months ago, and it looked silly when I said it, but other people are discussing just that scenario right now. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying it's increasingly likely, and we see trends heading that way, and it won't take much to tip it over. An economic downturn or a tariff backlash against Trump could conceivably swing the U.S. elections in the Senate this fall.
Mish, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Pleasure to be on, Jeff.
My guest has been Mike Mish Shedlock, editor of Mish's Global Economic Trend Analysis on maven.net/MishTalk. If you have any questions for Mish or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.